If you missed it, the first hour of the movie was covered in part 1. If you came straight from there, then enjoy. What makes the opening hour's weightlessness doubly frustrating is how much deeper the last 30 minutes are, starting with the two best sequences back to back. Nearly all the material that's stuck in the mind of viewers comes from this last third. The main reason is because the focus mostly narrows to Twilight, Tempest, and the Storm King, and actually adapts the series' character focus direction. Where the whole film at the last third's level, we'd have a great pony film, rather than a mildly good one that got me curious enough to check out the show.
Unless...
Careful, Andrea, your Fluttershy is showing.
I never would have done it, but this isn't Equestria. It's not enough. We are not enough.
They get pretty explicit with a key theme's complexity here, that being the difference between the other's unchanged fanciful approach and Twilight's adopted pragmatic approach. It's basically a choice of being thrust into a new situation and whether you approach it as you normally do in life or forgo your instincts and lose some of yourself in tackling it differently. Consider that the fanciful approach nearly cost them twice, only for Twilight's practical approach to get them away. Then, it was flipped, with the others making meaningful interactions with the sea ponies, only for Twilight's desperate, yet reasonable theft to undermine that. There's enough of a balance that both sides are valid, and it's made more striking by the fanciful side being represented by Pinkie, of all ponies. It's really quite profound.
Well, maybe I would have been better off without friends like you!
Her anger causing her horn to fizzle like Tempest's, showing how close Twilight came to snapping, is quite harrowing, both for Pinkie and the audience. Even more in a repeat, when we know what happened to Tempest, helps this unstressed, without one of them remarking that Twilight's like Tempest. This scene has a great use of staging and framing. As it starts, most characters can be seen. As the tension between Twilight and Pinkie builds, the compositions get narrower, stripping out the others, letting these two dominate. Finally, when the space on the two is quite compressed, and we're focusing on their eye lines, they hit the breaking point. Then, it happens in reverse, getting wider and bringing the others back in as they split, with the bleak grey colouring of it all starker than before. Even if you don't notice this, you certainly feel its effect. While I did cheat by picking a stellar example, the cinematography is far better than any sane person would expect from an animated TV show adaptation. Hiring a Hollywood-level pre-visualization artist as cinematographer was one of the smartest things the crew did. Tying in with the visual pacing and cinematography is a surprising self-imposed restriction on dialogue at times. Going 46 seconds without dialogue here lets the animation's emotion reign truer. From the looks of the others, Applejack especially, to Spike's shocked glance between the friends splitting, to the isolation of this wide shot and the following waves, to Twilight's physical collapse and Spike's timid approach. Couple all that with a mournful melody on strings and piano, and it's enough to make you want to hug the ponies. More so than usual. It means a lot Spike stuck with Twilight. This film's handled him well even if he doesn't do much, and reinforcing her oldest friendship is part of that. But he needs more tact. A line like,
"You'll figure it out,"
placing all the pressure on her shoulders again. A will instead of you'll, indicating he'll help her figure it out, rather than just be moral support, would have been better. While I don't know that Twilight's Tara Strong's best role, given her extensive cartoon resume, there's no denying she's a voice actor. Try listening to her breakdown with your eyes closed.
No, I can't. I ruined everything. There's no chance to save Equestria now. It's all my fault.
Her stress bursting out through realistic, subdued crying, rather than the cartoon variety, really nails it. Though the animation nails it too. Cage forces its way under her. They gloss by quickly, but still.
You're a pony, just like me.
I'm nothing like you. And more than you'll ever be.
The tricky thing with musical songs is that you have to ease into them naturally so they don't feel forced. This one starts a bit too quick. The present day parts of this song do suffer slightly in choreography, being confined to narrow walkways. But it's a total cracker of a villain song otherwise. The colour, the tune, the instrumentation, Blunt's performance. It won't win some over, but for everyone else, it's up there in the show's mythos.
Don't ever count on anybody else.
That Tempest said anybody rather than any pony really shows just how long she's been wandering alone, away from Equestria and ponies. You may notice her shadow has a horn. While it could be an oddball lighting error, I think it's intentional to reflect her desires. A lot of 2010's animated films have done art shift flashbacks. Even so, this is automatic positive karma, given all the cinematic techniques within, from the staging to the transitions. Tempest has been, fairly, compared to Starlight Glimmer, but Tempest's arc fixes the big issue there. Tempest's reason for abandoning friendship and turning bad is more believable. Being physically maimed brings lots of trauma alongside perceived abandonment, and while it's not fleshed out much, it's enough alongside the visuals to sell her backstory. On that, the instrumental verse in the middle is just beautifully poignant. It speaks for itself. They had a good eye motif going here, yet the delicately off shading on Twilight's character rig being static lessens it. Even a little eye widening or mouth movement beyond the slight mouth tremble and eyebrow rising that you probably didn't notice would have been enough. The danger with giving villains sympathetic backstories is that it strips them of presence, but for now, Tempest's presence is as strong as ever.
You think maybe it's time we talk to Twilight?
What happened to Applejack's accent? Sounds like a mid-tier fan dub. Better than I could do, given my dulcet male tones, but a mid-tier fan dub nonetheless. Applejack is closer to Spike here, when Rainbow was closer prior to her turning, side effect of arranging them in a circle between shots. Skystar's hippogriff design barely registers, and not just because she barely does anything above land either.
That's it, right? We didn't make friends with any pony else?
Today's film culture is so obsessed with plot holes that aren't. I try to avoid them, but when Spike lampshades that convenience... Why is there this moment of Twilight realising the horror of failing Equestria between her and Songbird's Serenade? She's been so barely present it doesn't register. If they weren't going to use a show character, don't bother. The realisation when Twilight sees the other princesses, as well as the ponies pulling the cart, does the job. One of the Storm Guards must yearn to be a decorator, because Statue Celestia and Cadence have moved around between themselves and the vacant space. The echo of their scream is a good, chilling touch. Michael Pena completely lost Gerba's tone there. If you're going to put on a lisp, don't let it affect other vocal areas.
I'm the princess of friendship.
Oh, that's nice. Why is this one still moving?
I find the Storm King's goofiness complements his psychopath nature quite well, along with his mood swings. I will concede that his limited screen time does slightly diminish his ability to register as a threat, though.
This place, it seems a little too, I don't know, cute!
But the dreary colours, a caged alicorn, 3 frozen ones. That'd be like thinking an animated film is cute just for being an animated film. There can't be people who think that, oh wait. I think they were trying to make Twilight look like she's still drained, or glaring at the Storm King, but it looks like she's glaring at some bug off camera. Weird to say about a Toon Boom rig, but Storm King's proportions between his arms and face are eerily off here. The alternating lighting of the day cycles throws this into focus. So the group was able to keep pace a short distance behind a airship back to Canterlot, presumably on hoof, while picking up a big cake. Yay for slow airships. Bit odd that they show Capper winking at Pinky. Rarity'd make more sense. She's the one he had the closest tie with.
Pinky, quit looking so happy. You ain't fooling no pony.
Oh, okay.
As much as I love adorable moments, I keep them in check with these videos, except when they break through my defenses. Aww. Grubber only appeared once briefly since the pirate ship, and isn't seen again till the possibly not canon credits. Even the filmmaker's tired of his unfunny wisecracks. There's lots of awesome action moments in this sequence, boosted by some score highlights. Can't be too generous, so we'll call it 1 for the lot.
You seem tense. Do you want to talk about it?
A few moments later.
Let it all out. Oh, sorry. Our time is up. Bye-bye.
My favourite joke in the whole film. It's just so Fluttershy. While she's not used much, she shines when she is. Twilight and Tempest are short enough to be hidden, but we should be able to see the Storm King on the balcony. You have to wonder why this one guard knows the equestrian language, or why he'd use it when none of his fellows would understand. Between the stiff walk cycles on the ponies here, and Capper not even holding Spike here, you could say corners were cut in these shots. As he conjures the Storm King switches to the balcony's edge while Twilight and Tempest move back behind him.
Now I I truly am the Storm King, and the entire world will bow to my ba-ba-ba-boom, baby!
This is what I love about the Storm King. Mostly, he's a perfect mix of genuine threat, even more so for not having magic of his own or being yet another threat out of Equestria's past. A villain who enjoys being evil and a few drops of fun goofiness. A rarity not just in Friendship and Magic, but in modern animation in general. And he's given lots of standard but effective filmmaking cinematography, from power shots where he towers over others to this rotating shot that doesn't look clunky, a real feat. If you got as much material as Tempest and they kept the quality up, he'd be the favourite. The betrayal being obvious isn't a huge problem. There's subtle evidence he couldn't restore her horn anyway, and the following remark,
I'd love for everybody out there to know what I can really do.
Ooh, fascinating. What can you really do?
indicates he, likely correctly, suspects she plans to betray him once her horn's back, so just one negative karma.
Hold on!
Why are you saving me?
Because this is what friends do.
What sells this is Twilight looking between the Storm King and Tempest, and the indicated choice she makes of either rejecting friendship like in Sequestria and going for the staff, or trusting her old ways and those of her friends and saving Tempest. Not to mention her choice touches Tempest enough for her horn, fizzling when her emotions are high, to calm down. When Twilight and Tempest arcs mingle, friendship is magic. After this, the Storm King barely registers. Some of that's to do with Tempest being the only character he really interacts with. Thus, after he betrays her and stops the mood swings to be in psycho mode full time, he might as well be any starling, brutal, mid-tier villain. The artists remember the frosting remnants from when Pinky fired the cannon before, but only in the frames of firing, not when Squabbles is about to fire. It's a CG model, how do you mess that up? It's kind of a miracle no falling debris hits any of the other princesses. I need hardly tell you what would happen.
Pinky, you all came back. I'm so sorry. I was wrong to... I'm sorry too. Go! You've got this, Twilight! No. We've got this. Together.
Doesn't matter how easy such moments may be to write, they still work. But it's vexing how rushed the race for the staff is, considering how much breathing room the moments thereafter are given. Spike goes from holding Rainbow by her tail to by her legs and back again. Tempest was trapped by debris near the balcony exit, yet after Twilight's loss to the storm, she's at the other end. There's real nuanced layers to the particulars of Pinky and Applejack's reactions to Twilight's death, but Spike's reaction was needed. I get them focusing on Pinky, given their quarrel earlier, but even for pony newcomers, as I was, it's clear from this film alone that Twilight and Spike have a unique bond. He stuck by her before. Spike collapsing in sorrow behind them, only rising when the sunlight intensifies, would have done the job without any extra shots or frames at all. The filmmakers generate the maximum effect from the breathing space they give this scene, with a minute of no dialogue. From the isolation of the dispelling storm clouds, to the subtleties of their reactions, to the concept art level beauty of Twilight's angelic descent, there's such precision to the cinematography. Doesn't matter if the death fake out is obvious. We go to the movies to be moved. The end result, to me, is pure movie magic. Odd the Obsidian Orb's radius affects Storm King, but not the main seven. They're closer to Tempest at the moment of impact. The long focus on Storm King's death is odd, not because it's inappropriate, thematically dark, sure, but it's such a bloodless high fantasy death that little kids won't be affected. No, it's odd because it feels like the filmmakers got indulgent with being able to properly kill off a villain, and didn't hit the brakes on visually making a big deal of it. Listen to the timing of Tempest's hoof step. Seems out of sync. Twilight's clearly turning to Tempest stepping forward, so the sound's the best part of a second too late. Yet again, the princesses swap places. This is the right order, but it only worked counterclockwise instead. The Storm King smashed to pieces right by the steps, yet he's missing when the world healing wave fixes Canterlot. I get why the Season's here. I've met people who watch an animated film solely because an artist they adore does a song or songs in it, so there's merit to the executive's thinking, but it doesn't mesh with the film's musical style, even if it gives something for those with normal music taste to latch onto. Yet I don't dislike it, mostly because the lyrics, theme and message do match parts of Twilight and Tempest's arcs. It's no The Magic Inside in that regard, but that's an unreasonable standard to expect. The resolution for their new allies is heavily truncated. The third act's written pacing is more solid than the film's average, but the lows are severe outliers. Pay attention to the subtleties of Tempest's reactions, especially the slant of her eyes and mouth at the start. We're drawn to focus on her, as she's in light when everyone else is in shadow, but this is a guaranteed miss on home media without pausing. It can be annoying when a film's designed for a big screen, especially when being widescreen means it's shrunk to fit a 16:9 ratio. The artist said in the art of book that they knew the film would only enjoy that cinema advantage for a few months, confined to smaller screens thereafter, but they focused on framing for a big screen anyway. Worth commending, as it's another thing animated TV adaptations often stumble on.
My horn.
You know, your horn is pretty powerful. Just like the pony it belongs to.
It would be so easy for the writers to have inserted a cheap way to fix her horn. Instead, Twilight basically tells Tempest that she doesn't have to let her disability define her. The show's tackled this before in Flight to the Finish, a real winner of an episode, but this is a message we need more of in all media, not just children's. Something not a lot realise is how Tempest provides the light show Twilight pitched at the film's start. It's not enough to paper over how useless that scene felt, but wrapping that initial wish around a sweet conclusion to Tempest's arc works, coupled with those adorable faces. There's some fierce competition for loveliest animated film end credits art in recent years, but this is up there. Applejack better loan me your hat at this point, gotta take it off to dark matter for this visual beauty. I especially dig how well it complements the film, beyond having unobtrusive nods and tie-ins to the film and show. The way it's structured, all the individual beats, it gives many threads closure. I firmly believe that credits should be treated as part of a film. These credits get me, folks. The fun doesn't stop at the visuals. That they have DJ Pone 3 flip records to Off to See the World, indicating we're watching the Pony's G-rated after party, is a really neat touch. What's the crime boss Capper was in debt to doing here? If he and the Storm Guards get invited, why not the other Cludgetowners? Michelle Creeber's name is misspelled. Coincidence? Or because all Appledoon's lines were removed before final cut? I've never liked when an animated film doesn't credit all its actors to characters, especially when the series it's based on does so every episode. Peter New gets credited for one Big Mac word, but only under additional voices for this guy with 5 lines. Petty, yup, but I'm in charge. There's no reason for the scrolling credits to be so small. We're past needing a safe area for pan and scan. Discounting the credits are typically letterboxed even if the film isn't. Let's be honest, this film is ribboned with problems, some of them severe, even ignoring the ones played up to an absurd degree by fans, and critic bashing on the grounds of cuteness overload. That still leaves plenty, primarily the eclectic written pacing and plot choices. Now, a pony film will of course be simply plotted, and this universe's charm lies in character, so the presence of lots of cliches in and of itself isn't a flaw, it's how they're used, and that's specific to each person. In the Cartoon Karma Corner, the road trip elements? Okay. Tempest's backstory and change? Nice. The Wretched Hive? Strong start, but the plot strips the scope away. Character imbalance? Problematic, but not as much as some fans claim. Twilight split from her friends and her death fake out? Well done. Shallow death of their new allies? Oh boy. I find more done well than not, but it's offset by many rough runs being direct writing elements, definitely contributes to the film being less than the sum of its parts, and, in the show's mythos, being an oddity rather than an apotheosis. Yet for all that, it's not an extended episode. Between the visual pacing, amazing cinematography, and plethora of cinematic techniques, it is a legitimate theatrical experience. While it does play better for the fans, it doesn't require familiarity with Friendship is Magic, given it got me into the show. Every voice actor, even the guest stars, does their best. The mostly solid songs are worth highlighting. That many positives are at the margins gives it a leg up for repeat viewings too. And it does remember to be a grand adventure. Legitimate fun is in short supply in today's films. Whatever problems they let slip, the filmmakers cared about the film and had fun making it, and it shows. As regards the animation, it's tough to dissect, as it comes down to taste. Does the Omrig's character animation distract? Yes and no. The animation quality does fluctuate, given how much of the actual animation labour is outsourced, and there's a certain hurdle between the character's flatness and the world's dimensionality. Not a problem now, since I've watched the whole show, but you are aware that it's repurposing Adobe Flash characters, and this either-or proposition, if you don't cross it, makes it difficult to appreciate other technical virtues. Still, it shows that most of the budget was actually spent on the animation, shocker, and it's such a visual upgrade compared to pretty much any other animated TV show adaptation that it's not even funny. Every aesthetic change to the characters works. The backgrounds are lovely whenever they're not poor CG. Some stumbles, yeah, but it does enough visually to put it a smidge below the top-notch anime films we get these days. Brand tie-in be darned. Let's be grateful a modern wide-release American film with this visual style exists. -45. Whatever its faults, this film started my journey with My Little Pony. For that, I'm grateful.